You've got questions? O'Reilly Auto Parts has answers. Need a pro you can trust? We've got that too. No matter what you need, our professional parts people have the training and expertise to help you do things right. Deep automotive knowledge, just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
All right, we're now rolling. So I'm just going to start out here and I'm going to introduce you. Today I have a great friend of mine, Nate Lewis from The Innocent. I'm so glad that, Nate, you could join me today to discuss something that I am very passionate about, and that is all forms of human trafficking. So I met Nate as I've been campaigning, and we've shared meal together, and anyway, I want you to hear from him firsthand about who he is, what The Innocent is, and then we're going to discuss how it relates not only from a national scale, but right here in Kootenai County. So, Nate, welcome to the Idaho Sheriff Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so tell me about yourself. Tell me your background.
Oh, man. I'll try to keep it short. I spent most of my young adult into my mid-adult life, spending most of my time overseas in different areas of the world. Started a family here locally in Coeur d'Alene, and ended up working for a local company, Alien Gear, for a little while. And I went and worked for an international anti-trafficking organization that focused on human trafficking with a focus on child sex trafficking, but it was international. So I spent the last 3+ years doing international work on all sorts of human trafficking, from hunting witch doctors that were sacrificing children to forced begging, where they're removing limbs from children and forcing them to beg, forced marriage, child sex hotels for homosexuals, to online exploitation. Oh, man, all kinds of things I've seen all over the world. And it was just not recently after the Sound of Freedom where the American people were started really talking about this to me personally loudly, like, whoa, what are we doing? And it just dawned on me, like, the people want to do something about this. And several of my friends are law enforcement, and started just talking, and just talking to law enforcement in general, even all over the world. And they were missing some fundamental pieces, mostly due to resources and things. And I said, well, why don't we just create something where the people can help fund the police in the specific crime, that's child sex crimes, and get them the training, the technology and tactics that they need to go out and do really good operations with smaller teams and get significant results right here in our community and protect the innocent children in America. And that's important to know about The Innocent, is 100% of every dollar stays inside of our borders right here in America. Awesome. And my team is active duty law enforcement. So we're not just, I think nonprofits get this name of like these vigilante cowboys that are out there, where the reality is my team is mostly all active duty law enforcement currently. Yeah, awesome. Acting as a detective, or even as a task force officer for a federal agency as well. So I could get into a little bit more of that, but that's a little bit about my background. We're a national organization. I happen to live here locally, so this is important to me because my kids are growing up here, and my friends, my family, and stuff like that. And so if I can help out here as well, I would love to.
So you've told me a little bit about your background and why you're doing what you're doing right now, which I applaud you for. I mean, anytime somebody comes from out of the shadows to say, I see a need and I want to act upon that, I align very much with individuals like yourself. So when did you form The Innocent? And tell us a little more detail about The Innocent, how it's structured, and kind of what you do with law enforcement, what you can tell us without giving away trade secrets.
Yeah, so we're about a year old, honestly, and we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary, October, officially with the IRS in November. But what we really truly do is we're here to customize a very specialized training program for law enforcement departments in their investigative units. And that is customizing the fact that we meet them wherever they are. whether they've never done any of these investigations, they don't even know where to start, how to chat online, what platforms, what equipment you may need, all the things, meeting them where they are. Now, if they're already into the organized crime part of this, we also can meet them there and devise a different type of tactic. There's really 2 or 3 angles. You're either going after the buyer or you're going after the seller. And I think that people, are using the word trafficker, and the victim becomes survivor of trafficking, where in the, couple decades ago it was just pimp and prostitute.
Right.
And so in thinking that they're just volunteering, like Pretty Woman, where they're actually, if you identify, and we know a lot more now, and law enforcement is becoming a lot more aware, to not treat these individuals as criminals, but as victims.
Yes.
Right. And taking a different approach. And
as it should be.
Mm-hmm. And so we're really going in and just trying to really empower them to be effective at hunting predators, offenders, traffickers that are really, most of this is starting online. It's a digital world. I'm going to give a couple stats real quick. The average child signs up for social media before they're a teenager. They're 12 and a half years old on average. And 93% of teenagers have at least one social media account. And they spend on an average 9 hours a day online, teenagers. And people ask me all the time, like, well, why is that so important? It's a digital playground that kids are playing on. And this is where it starts. Grooming, exploitation. It's so prevalent online. It's if you're not getting educated and protecting your children from what's happening, they're probably going to become victim at some point. Or now people are hearing more and more. They're actually knowing people who's been exploited online. And so there's so much work to do. We're trying to just get law enforcement to get proactive about these investigations, to make children and their innocence a priority.
Yeah. Well, speaking of buy-in from local law enforcement agencies, and I know that you have stated that you work nationally here in the continental U.S. What about right here in Kootenai County? Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that for the past year, I've been continually beating the drum that whether you see it or not, human trafficking is most definitely taking place right here in Kootenai County. So have you had, or your team had, any experience with this right here locally in our very own county?
Well, first I want to follow up to a very important thing you just said. If you haven't seen it, right? And I think that it's important to understand that you have to actually look for it for the most part.
Right.
A lot of this stuff doesn't just fall into your lap so you can react to it. You actually have to go out and be proactive. And that's why I use that word, is we have to go out and take a proactive approach, which is hard for law enforcement right now with budgets and certain thing and manpower and stuff like that. And having to react to all the crimes and caseloads already. But this is an easy approach to proactive. So I think before I answer your question very specifically with some data and facts, it's important to understand human trafficking laws and the definition here in the state of Idaho, which all of you who are watching this, I encourage you to go to legislature.idaho.gov, and you can find all these statutes there, which are the laws that law enforcement are enforcing. And in Title 18, Crimes and Punishment, Chapter 86, it actually is titled Human Trafficking, and it gives the definition of coercion, meaning the compulsion or a threat, including but not limited to, and then it lists all this stuff. There's tons of them there that you can go on and you can look on this website about what they are. And I think that when you start reading these things, read them word for word, because a lot of them are the attempt to. So they don't actually have to go and rape a child for it to be human trafficking happening. If they attempt to, like they show up to an undercover sting operation, they're attempting and they get arrested for the attempt of a rape of a child. And there's all kinds of other things that fall under when we go to, let me read the definition for child sex trafficking real quick. This is Chapter 86, 18-8608, human sex trafficking of a child. A person of 18 years old will commit a felony of human sex trafficking of a child if a person, and then it states, traffics a child and knowingly by any means causes, attempts, or causes the trafficked person to engage in becomes the following. And then it goes on to like commercial sex, of a minor. What does that look like? I can give you the definition of commercial sex of a minor. It's right back here. And I think that it's important. Commercial sex of a minor means the exchange or the attempted exchange of sexual contact for a fee. And then it gives the definition of a fee as well. If there is communication from an adult over the age of 18 with who they believe to be a minor, and they commit elements of crime, I can't give away too many secrets and too many things. The law enforcement that's watching this knows exactly what I'm talking about. They can now, if they want to continue those investigations, to get more elements of crime and then get them to actually show up to a specific location with other secrets that I'm not going to give away right here. That person, that adult shows up, they are now under the law that I'm reading here under human trafficking, chapter 86. They've attempted commercial sex of a minor. Now, we haven't even gone into the exploitation laws that are all written right here. I would advise people to watch this and really go in and look at the Idaho laws and understand the definition. And keep in mind, there's definitions of just general human trafficking, but when it comes to children, children can't consent either. So keep that in mind. And so there's a ton of stuff. I would say, for me, a lot of people think, my experience is what people think all trafficking is like, oh, they're kids being held in a sex hotel of just boys under the age of 12, which actually happens. And is there actual ring type stuff happening in large cities across the United States? From my sources and information, yes. And there's way more happening than people can even understand. And it's really important to understand how it's happening, where it's happening, and what we're doing about it. But we've got to be proactive and we've got to go out and search for it. We can't wait for it to happen. And I want to get to something very specific. My team of active duty law enforcement, I have a local detective sergeant who works at a local police station who works on my team.
In Kootenai County.
In Kootenai County, who ran in a discovery, just to discover like what's out there. And so what we do, and I'm not going to give away too many pieces of this, but you can go onto dark web. So the light web is social media. Your kids are at risk. And I'm not going to spend the next 20 minutes talking about that. But there are pay-for-sex sites, lots of them. There are, and apps and certain things. And if you don't know about them, that's because you don't specialize in this one specific arena. But I'm telling you, we ran an ad of a 14-year-old twice. One was with a federal agent, so don't worry. Even if it wasn't an agent that was local in Kootenai County, we're doing it on multiple levels. Twice. And on the second time that we ran this ad, within 10 minutes, meaning the department and the officer that was doing these investigations and in 10 minutes had 4 people communicating with what they believed to be a 14-year-old. And within 24 hours, I believe it was 61. And within 1 week, it was more than 200 unique phone numbers that were communicating with a minor that they knew. Now, we didn't continue any investigations because we were just trying to get an idea of what was going on. And we wanted to get the buy-in from the supervisors that like, hey, there's something happening here. We should probably do something and look more into this. And in training and certain things, looking and practicing and getting reps in of doing this type of work, there's constantly people that my officer that works locally is communicating with locally that are engaging with who they know for sure, they believe from actual evidence is 12 years old. We had a case, and I can't give too many details, and we passed on because some of them are coming from Washington, but it doesn't matter. 25-minute drive, your children can still be at risk.
Right.
I'm telling you, you have to look at all the places. It may not be that there's like these dark secret hotels or Airbnbs that are housing a tons of kids. I'm not going to get into all that, but there's also ways that I think children are more at danger. And I think the most dangerous place they are for kids is online. And if we're not looking online and we're not looking at it from that angle, I think we're missing a lot. We're missing a lot. We really are.
And, I can't even, I can, obviously I was in law enforcement for 12 years, but I still cannot comprehend those stats that you just told me about right here in Kootenai County. I mean, My youngest daughter is now almost 17. I had a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. I had 5 of them. And to think that there are pervy men and women, and I assume that it's probably majority of men, but those looking to defile one of these young innocent, it makes me enraged. Oh. And I don't know about the people that are watching this right now. I have to believe they too are not anything less than enraged over this evil behavior.
Dan, let me give you some real stats. And there's some real people in Kootenai County Jail right now who have been arrested for some of these things. If you look up the word traffic and the definition of those laws. But let me tell you some ones that we have been a part of in a small town in Washington. And this is, the news has reported this stuff, so it's all out there as well. But the cases are still pending, so not too many details can be provided. But this town, a small town, had never done any of these proactive investigations. They reacted to if there was a rape of a child. So the rape already took place. So we went in with the team who are active duty. We provided the training and some equipment to this department, and they went in and started doing these investigations. Now, one of them took about 6 to 7 minutes in a conversation to have the elements of an arrest. And then that person showed up to the school to believing they were going to meet up with a minor to have sex in a car and got arrested. That person who showed up to meet, I believe it was a 12 or 11-year-old, had a 9 and 11-year-old living inside the residence. Obviously, more steps have to be taken. I'm not going to get into the details of this. Another 41-year-old male, this is all, there's news articles about this stuff. 41-year-old male showed up to have sex with an 11-year-old and had an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old stepchild that would continually, almost stepchild, they were about to get married, off and on spending time in the home as well. This is why we do what we do. There's so much, Dan, that is more than I can do on this thing. But when we're talking about focusing on the protection of children's innocence from child sex trafficking, exploitation, and sexual assault, and identifying patterns and behaviors online of what people are doing and watching them go from a digital addiction to a physical addiction, and how do we intervene before they go from this addiction that's online to a physical addiction, and understanding and getting into these forums that are available to the public that most people don't even know about, that are specific forums where you can communicate and share groups in this interweb of people that are out there that are addicted. And the scariest part is there's professional predators. Yeah. There's sloppy ones who are just getting into this and they're like, oh yeah, they don't try to hide their identity. And then there's really professional ones who are really good at this. And that's where the training has to come in, to go after, first start with the low hanging fruit and then just graduate and keep going. This summer, my team members, wasn't working directly with us. I was there and we supported in ways that we could, but there was a large operation. And here's a crazy stat, Dan. This group, and I'm not going to give away too much information, who has been doing these type of investigations for, I think it's 5 years, have arrested over 330 predators in these operations. They arrested 12 within 54 hours. That's sleep time included in there too, in this small town. And ended up becoming 13, but in that window was 12. And set a record for a one-day number of arrests. And most of those on their phone had pictures of them and their own child as their screensaver. Some of them did, or their family. I'm not even to the crazy part yet. And all these 330 arrests that were made, about 3% of them are registered sex offenders. Okay? So that means that 97% of them were not known to be sex
been caught yet. Yeah.
Anyone who's watching, go to familywatchdog.us and put your address in, and then search for all the registered sex offenders living around you. And you can see their profile, what their charges were, all that stuff. Zoom out, scope around your area, go into Spokane, go all the way up. That represents potentially about 3% of the offenders that haven't been caught, arrested, convicted, found guilty, and then registered as a sex offender. Okay. Yeah. It's going to blow your mind. And here's the other thing. You think that, it's happening right here and this right here, but these offenders travel. So they could come from Kalispell, Montana, or Missoula, or Portland. They could come from all over to meet children. So there's a lot we're in a really cool place, I think, in time where it's being talked about. The people want something to be done about it. And we're in a place where there's a lot that we can offer law enforcement that want to get into this at whatever level they're at. Doesn't matter. We're not here to judge anyone. We're here to help them. We're here to help law enforcement. That's all really what we're doing. We're giving an avenue for the people to make an impact, hopefully locally in their own local communities, but then untying the hands of law enforcement who may not have the resources or the technology or the funds for the technology or to send people to training and maybe not even know where to start, and have people who are specialized in this arena, this specific crime, not drugs, not homicide, not fraud, child sex crimes, and come in and give you really, really advanced training and technology to go out and start hunting predators that are living amongst us. Because you're seeing them, pedophiles get arrested, but it's too late.
Yeah.
We got to get to them before they get to the child.
And it's my belief, having been in the private sector for so long and also, of course, volunteer service, that government is not as efficient as the private sector with groups like yours in developing the tools that we need to do an efficient job. And I want to applaud you for doing what you're doing right now, for taking that risk, informing the innocent, and for all those that are on your board that work with you. I commend each and every one of you for being able to do this. I know that in wrapping up, I wanted to, reiterate that it blows my mind that we don't make this a greater emphasis, because in my belief, we must protect the most vulnerable amongst us. And if we don't do that, if we don't do everything within our capability and go just a little bit more, who are we? How can we face ourselves in the mirror as Americans when we know that this heinous thing is going on? I mean, we know that whatever you do unto the least of these, you do unto me. And I believe that sometimes part of the reason that we're not looking real hard is we're worried about who we're locally going to pick up in the net.
Well, it's shocking because there's a gentleman, this is public, who's in jail right now, who's a doctor. I think is on 12 charges of voyeurism. Yeah. This is called trafficking, by the way, if you didn't know. If you're taking video footage of somebody, and a child especially, it's in the laws. I could read it if you want me to, or you can go find out for yourself if you're watching.
And we'll post a link to this so that people can find it as well.
Yeah, and these are things that are occurring. They are, because I can't tell you, Dan, how many freaking times I can't believe that guy. I can't believe that person. I can't believe. It's always I can't believe, because it's happening so much. It's parents, step parents, coaches, teachers, all walks of life, doctors. I mean, this is what's I don't think people understand. When you start talking about the war on drugs, people are like, "Well, I've never done drugs. I don't even know what they look like or smell like." But most human beings have some relationship with sex, so they can make this relatable. And the access to pornography and all these other things, it becomes an addiction, like a drug, right? And you look at the science of what's going on in the body, and then it progresses. People don't just start doing heroin. They start somewhere. And that's what I mean when we can identify the pattern of life and behaviors. Where are they starting, and then where are they getting to? And where can we intervene? The earliest stages of their journey into this. On average, this is the National Sex Register Offenders. This is where that's the source of this next stat. The average predator will abuse 117 victims in their lifetime. 117. Now, that's an average. How do we get to them before they get to their children? Or it doesn't have to be children. The crazy thing is, and I know I'm getting a little emotional, so I need to calm, but I'm very passionate about this, because here's the thing. A girl could be 17 years old, 360 days, and in a week from now she can consent to sex. And there's a 50-year-old man, and we've had this, who's a teacher teaching children, who's communicating with us, who thinks we're a minor, and then finds out we're 14 and says, "Oh, I thought you were 18. He thinks it's okay, even though he's married and has kids and teaches kids, that if that child would have been 18, it's okay for a 50-plus-year-old man to be communicating with a minor. And that's the other thing I hate about social media. Right now, we can create these accounts as a 14-year-old girl, and these social media accounts are introducing 50-year-old men to us. Why in the world should anyone or any application be introducing 50-year-old men to 14-year-old girls? There's no reason that should be. They're enabling this to happen. This is why it's so important to be active on these sites and on these applications and really be going after the predators who are where our kids are. Our kids are online, and we need to be online with them to protect them. Sorry, I know I'm kind of going over here.
Look, you're as passionate as I am. I love seeing what you're doing. I want to thank you personally for seeing this mission and applying yourself. I know that from my campaign, I am supportive of you and countless others that are working to eradicate this vile evilness from amongst us. And so, Nate, I really appreciate it. I know that you're training right now. I greatly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with me and to let the people right here in Kootenai County know a little bit, just a small sliver of what we've encountered just with the tests that you were doing here locally. But in a closing, what would you say to the people out here in Kootenai County regarding this and what they can do to ensure that their law enforcement engages in attempting to eradicate this from amongst us?
Wow, that's a good question. The first step I always say is go get educated. I think that it's important to know the laws, know the definitions, and then you can speak about it with an educated point of view. And I also would encourage that show up to meetings, show up to your elected officials and talk to them and let them know that this is important. Your children should be a high priority. And as a community, what we should be doing, what we can do, and this is why I started this organization, let's stop making this a political thing when it's not. This isn't a political thing. And let's start supporting law enforcement and let's start funding them locally. Let's send them to training. Let's get them certified as chatters so they can chat online. Let's get them the equipment that they need. Let's get them forensic equipment if they need to. There's a lot of things that we, the people, can fill the gap that law enforcement has in their budgets that we can do and really just empower them and give them the fuel that they need. They need the training and education and equipment to go out and understand the specific crime to go out and practically do it. And we could come together as the people and really fund our local police, to be honest with you. We really can. And I think that that's huge. And keep talking about it. Keep talking about it. We have to, because things don't get changed unless we and our voices get loud enough and demand change and something to be done. And that's what I hope we can do as a nation. As a nation, I think this topic can bring us together, because it's the most important to me, protecting the innocence of our children, which the innocence of a child is, I think, the most incredible wonder of the world, that innocence of a child. Yeah. And there's innocence of adults too, but the children's innocence is just so pure. Yes. And how do we make that a priority as a country, let alone as a county or a city? I think that, there's so much to go on. And Dan, I could talk for hours, and I know we got to wrap it up, but let's do something. Let's join together as a community to do this.
I can tell you that when I'm sheriff, I will be supporting and working, co-laboring with your organizations and others who share this mission. And so, Nate Lewis, I greatly appreciate you taking the time. I believe there's an event that you're going to be here locally attending. I believe it's on the 14th. We'll confirm that.
6 p.m. Life Coffee, and I'm inviting everyone out. This is not a political thing. Yes. I think everybody needs to get educated. I'm going to go through these laws so that people understand the real Idaho definition of trafficking and child sex trafficking, and what that looks like, because it's important to know.
Well, hey, bro, thank you so much for your time. Stay strong and courageous. Please give my best to your law enforcement community that you're working with. We support them. We stand with them. Stay strong and courageous. God bless you, brother.
Thank you. God bless.
Take care. Okay. I'll stop recording. You've got so much great information, and I really appreciate you taking the time. it blows my mind as being a father of 5, a grandfather of 1. And I have a special needs daughter, and there is very few things that get me as angry as those that would prey upon our children and that would harm any of them. And so I applaud you for what you're doing. And I'm really grateful that you reached out, introduced yourself to me, and I'm looking forward to the friendship that we're going to forge in the days to come.
Dan, I want you to know my reaction when you said you have a special needs child, and we have one in my family as well. And here's the where my heart breaks the most, maybe the most, is it said that 1 in 10 children who have a special need or a disability will be sexually abused because they're easy prey, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But 50% of those will be sexually abused more than 10 times. And that drives me out of my skin because I'm for justice and I freaking hate bullies. That's why I'm in this. I hate bullies, right?
We have a lot in common.
Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, when you start bullying kids with special needs because they're easy prey, oh, buddy, I'm coming after you. You're my number one target, let alone children. But now you start going after the special children.
Yeah.
Forget it, man. I get fired up, and
my children do too.
That's where that emotion was evoked from when you said that, because
it's righteousness.
Man, fired up.
Well, brother, thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to meeting with you again personally and just getting to know you better on all sorts of topics. But thank you so much for your friendship, and be safe out there.
All right, man. We'll talk soon, bro.
God bless. Be safe.
Bye.
All right, bye.